Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. Today, we are going to connect two stories that look separate but are really the same story. Google is trying to sell you the control room for AI agents while your employees are already building the workforce that will use it. That is the useful part, because most AI conversations still sound like a 2023 model bake-off. Which model is smarter? Which chatbot writes better emails? Which vendor has the prettier demo? Fine, that was the first inning. We are now in the inning where the model stops answering questions and starts taking actions. When that happens, the question changes. It is no longer which model is best. It is who is allowed to act on what data inside which system with whose approval and who gets blamed when it touches payroll. Welcome to Enterprise AI. The demo is over. The org chart has arrived. First, Google. Reuters reported that Google has put AI agents at the center of its enterprise money-making push. Google is rebranding Vertex AI, its platform for building and running AI applications, under the Gemini Enterprise label. It is also adding governance and security features for agents. That matters because agents are not just chatbots with ambition. They are software workers that can plan, decide, call tools, read data, and take action. Thomas Kurian, the head of Google Cloud, put it bluntly during the company's cloud conference: the experimental stage is behind us, and now the actual challenge begins. Give him credit for that sentence. It is rare to hear a cloud executive say the quiet part without wrapping it in 12 layers of partner ecosystem frosting. The experimental stage is behind us. That is the line. Google is not just saying, use Gemini. It is saying, use Gemini Enterprise as the place where your agents live, work, get governed, and get audited. That is a very different sale. That is not model access. That is operational control. Think about the last 20 years of enterprise software. The first wave was systems of record, ERP, CRM, HRIS, the digital filing cabinets. Then came systems of engagement, Slack, Teams, Salesforce workflows, mobile apps, portals, the places people actually worked. Agents create a third layer, systems of action. That sounds like jargon until one of them approves a refund, reroutes a lead, drafts a contract clause, changes a database field, or tells a sales rep which customer to call next. Then it sounds less like jargon and more like a Tuesday. This is why Google is emphasizing governance and security. The model answers the question. The control plane decides whether the answer is allowed to touch the business. And Google is backing that pitch with infrastructure. Reuters reported that Alphabet plans between $175 billion and $185 billion in capital expenditure this year. Sundar Pichai said just over half of the machine learning compute investment would go toward cloud. Google also announced new TPU chips, tensor processing units, its custom AI chips, with one inference chip claiming an 80% efficiency improvement for rapid inference tasks compared with the prior generation. That last part matters. Training is when you build the brain. Inference is when the brain works for you every day, every hour, every request. Agents are inference machines with calendars. They do not just sit there looking impressive in a benchmark. They run, they check, they call APIs, they read documents, they make decisions. They need cheap, fast, governed execution. That is exactly the lane Google is trying to own. Here is my read. Google is trying to make the agent control plane the next enterprise platform decision. Not the model, not the chatbot, the control plane. If I were sitting in your seat this quarter, I would treat that like a real architecture decision, not a procurement footnote. Pick a temporary owner now, CIO, CTO, COO, whoever actually has authority across systems. Then ask one simple question. Where do agents get registered before they get deployed? If the answer is, we do not know, you have your answer, because the agents are coming anyway. Which brings us to story 2. Your employees are not waiting. Writer, the enterprise AI company, released a 2026 adoption survey with workplace intelligence. The sample was 2,400 people, 200 non-technical employees actively using AI at work, and 200 C-suite executives. The numbers are not subtle. 97% of executives said they deployed AI agents in the past year. 79% of organizations still face AI adoption challenges. 75% of executives said their AI strategy is more for show than actual guidance. That is a beautiful sentence in the way a check engine light is beautiful. more for show than guidance. Imagine telling your sales team, we have a compensation strategy. It is mostly decorative. Or telling your plant manager, we have a safety program, it photographs well. That is where a lot of enterprise AI is right now. Lots of announcements, lots of task forces, plenty of laminated enthusiasm, not enough operating model. The same writer report says 92% of C suite executives are actively cultivating AI elite employees. 60% plan layoffs for non adopters. 67% believe their company has already suffered a data breach from unapproved AI. There it is, the whole mess in three numbers. The power users are pulling ahead, the non adopters are becoming visible, the shadow tools are already leaking data. Gallup gives us the broader workforce baseline. Half of employed American adults say they use AI in their role at least a few times a year. 13% use it daily, 28% use it a few times a week or more. So this is not universal yet, but it is no longer fringe. The mistake is assuming adoption is evenly distributed. It is not. Inside most companies, AI adoption looks less like a rollout and more like a heat map. Bright spots in marketing, sales operations, customer support, engineering, finance, HR, dark spots everywhere else. The official program moves at corporate speed. The unofficial program moves at employee frustration speed. Employee frustration usually wins. Harvard Business Review had a useful piece on this. The authors argued that companies should stop treating unauthorized consumer AI use only as a compliance problem and start reading it as hidden demand. Their example was BBVA, the European bank. HBR says BBVA turned that hidden demand into more than 11,000 active users, 4,800 custom internal tools, and reported time savings of 2 to 5 hours per employee per week. That is the operator story. Not we launched an AI transformation. Not we held an inspirational town hall where someone said the word journey 6 times. They found the people already trying to get leverage, gave them a safer environment, made access competitive, and let expert users spread the practice. That is how these things actually diffuse. A $200 million logistics operator in Dallas does not become AI native because the CEO sends a memo. It becomes AI native because a dispatcher builds a better exception reporting workflow, a sales ops manager builds a lead scoring assistant, and someone in finance stops spending Sunday night cleaning spreadsheets like it is a religious obligation. Then everybody else sees the time savings. That is when adoption starts. Here is the connection between the two stories. Google is selling the top-down answer, the enterprise control plane. Reuters, Gallup, and HBR are showing the bottom-up reality. Employees are already building the AI workforce before the control plane is finished. Both are true, and both create the same CEO problem. You need governance without killing momentum, too much freedom, and you get shadow AI, data leakage, random browser extensions, customer information in public tools, and agents with permissions nobody remembers granting. Too much control, and your best operators go around the system because the official one is slower than doing the work manually. Congratulations, you have achieved compliance theater. The data is still leaving, it just learned to use a side door. The answer is not a ban. Bans are what organizations announce when they have lost the plot and want a press release that sounds like control. The answer is a narrow path with guardrails. If I were sitting in your seat, I would do 3 things this month. First, name the agent control plane owner, not a committee, a person. Committees are where accountability goes to become a PDF. Second, find your AI elite employees before HR turns them into a competency model. Ask every department head for the 3 people already using AI to produce better work. Not the loudest people, the people whose output changed. Put them in a room. You will learn more in 90 minutes than you will from a 6-week strategy assessment. Third, create a safe, fast lane, approved tools, approved data boundaries, clear logging, a lightweight intake process, a way for power users to build useful workflows without pretending every spreadsheet macro is a regulated medical device. The goal is not to slow them down. The goal is to stop making the dangerous path the easiest path. This is the part CEOs need to hear clearly. The workforce split is not coming. It is here. The control plane battle is not theoretical. It is being sold now. Your employees are not waiting for the architecture diagram to be approved. They are already working. Some are working with AI. Some are working around you. The job now is to turn that energy into an operating system before it turns into an incident report. So the question for this week is simple. Could you name the person who owns agent governance in your company? Could you name your top 10 AI power users? Could you explain what data they are allowed to use, what systems their tools can touch, and what happens when something goes wrong? Not in a board deck, in a meeting, out loud, without help from the CIO. If the answer is no, that is not a failure. It is a starting point. The model is not the moat. The operating system around the model is. That is the YPO Tech Network AI brief for Monday, May 4th. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I will be back tomorrow with more. Until then, stay sharp.